In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. My beloved, today we have a beautiful holiday which is celebrated just as much as the major feast days in Russia and all over the countries. Today is St. Nicholas Day. St. Nicholas has been made a bishop against his will, in a sense. Was most of the saints, by reading the lives of saints, we see that they never looked for any positions of authority. Then they always felt that they are unworthy to receive those things. But he started his life in the beginning, showing his asceticism and showing that he is going to be going after the Lord all the time. After he was born, at the time of baptism, when he was supposed to be baptized, he was standing for 3 hours on his feet without having anybody to support him. And as a little baby, just imagine, little baby standing there for 3 hours service. They must have had liturgy there and whatever, but St. Nicholas had done that, and to amazement of everybody. When on Wednesdays and Fridays he refused to have any milk until late at night after the parents had said already their prayers. And he would never drink milk from the left side of the mother's breast, only on the right side, to show that he was already from the little tiny tyke. He was geared, and he gave his heart to the Lord to be always on the right side and never on the left side. And he saved so many people. He made so many miracles. He's not known for many writings. We don't have writings from him like we have from all the major big saints, the hierarchs that we're celebrating, that everybody knows, St. Basil the Great, St. John Chrysostom, and Gregory the theologian, and so on. But he has not left us the writings, but he has left us the Spirit of Christ, because he had followed Christ, and he has actually copied and did what Christ said. That he said, those who believe, that they will be able to do the same things as I did, and even more. Well, St. Nicholas did those things. He resurrected the dead. He did healed all kinds of sickness. He cast out demons from multitude of people. And not only while he was alive, but after, he did the same thing. He was appearing many times to people. And we'll give you an example. For instance, he appeared to the king and to the judge when several soldiers were to be executed because they were maligned by somebody. And so St. Nicholas came in a dream to the emperor and to the judge and told them that if you're going to execute them, they've been maligned. I'm going to have a mutiny against you made, like it was in some other place. And so even threatened. There was a case where he showed his zeal as Elijah the prophet when he heard there's 3 soldiers were going to be executed. And he went over to that place where the execution was supposed to be taking place. He went through the crowd of the people that were watching that execution, and he came up to the man, the soldier, or the executioner had already raised his big sword. He was going to chop off the head, and he grabbed his hand, took away, pulled away the sword and threw it away from him and saved the people. And as we know, I'm sure you've read the life, but anyway, just a little short summary of it. And when there was the ecumenical council, the first one that the emperor, equal to the apostles, St. Konstantin, my patron saint, when he had convened the council, and he was present there. And he was also fighting for the truth and against the Arianism. And in fact, in the middle of the heated discussions, he came up finally when he heard some blasphemy said by the Arian. He came up to him and slapped him right in the face. For that, the council decided to take off his bishopry and send them into seclusion into a monastery because they thought it was quite improper for a bishop to behave that way. But in the night, the patriarch and some of the bishops, they saw a vision where the Lord is coming up to Saint Nicholas and giving him a gospel, and the Mother of God giving him the amaphorion of a bishop. And so they recognized that the Lord did not want him to be disbarred or disrobed, and so they have reinstated him with all the honors. He also gotten himself a martyr's crown because he had done quite a while. He had been in the jail because at that time another heresy took over, and they were putting many Orthodox Christians into jails or on torturing and so on. St. Nicholas went through all that, and of course, but the most thing he's known for is that he's so merciful. He's so merciful that he really co-suffered with those who were suffering, and he really rejoiced with those who were rejoicing. And there was a time when after the parents had passed away, they left him. They had good resources, or they weren't poor, let's say, and they left him the inheritance, and he gave everything out to the poor, and he would always give everything to whoever it may be. But then God even revealed to him when somebody is in trouble, spiritual trouble. He saved a father that he had 3 daughters, and he was so devastated. He used to be a rich man, and he became poor, and he was so devastated he didn't have money to feed or to clothe his daughters. And he had a terrible thought that he was going to open up a house for men to come in and take his daughters. Because at that time you had to have a dowry to give to your daughters away in marriage. And St. Nicholas found out about it. The Lord revealed to him that this man was going to commit such a terrible crime. He was going to make a whorehouse out of his own house and make his daughters to do this terrible sins. And at night, not to be seen, he brought a bag of gold and threw it in the window. And after he did that, he literally ran away. And the person didn't hear it. But in the morning he saw the bag, and he looked, and it was gold. And he couldn't believe it first, but then he accepted it and thanked the Lord that he kept him from making a terrible sin. And he used that gold to give one of the oldest daughter away in marriage. And then came up again to the same situation, what to do with the other one. And St. Nicholas again came and threw a bag of gold in the window. But this time, after that, the man wanted to make sure he finds out who's giving him that gold, because he gave the second daughter for marriage. And then the third time, and the man was started to guard and not sleep at night and watch to make sure that he'll catch the person who's throwing the gold. And this last time when St. Nicholas threw the bag of gold through the window, he heard the trump and he ran out after him and caught him. And of course St. Nicholas had given him a little spiritual instructions and so on, and the father thanked him. He said that he saved them from going to hell himself and with the children. he didn't judge. St. Nicholas, you see, he didn't judge anybody. He judged the sins, but not the sinners. And this is what St. Nicholas wants us to do. There is no family in Russia, or at least before the Soviets took over, there was no family that would not have an icon of St. Nicholas. We have the icons of course, the Mother of God and the Lord, first of all, and then the Mother of God in every family, and there's always a St. Nicholas also in the family of every Christian. They're not only in Russia, but it was all over the world. He's revered and cherished. My beloved, if we could only understand that he was following the gospel, he was living according to the gospel, and that's what he's calling us to do, to try to live according to the gospel. Because if we do not do that, we're not going to find the peace inside of us. We'll always have the irritation, and always have the sorrows that will take over us, and we'll have no consolation. But he is willing to be our consolation. All we have to do is cry out to him, as many multitude of times of people had done from all the time that he was working on this earth, and getting consolation from him. He's always willing to do that. As of course, if we cry out with the heart to the Lord and to the Theotokos, then to all the saints, they all are willing to always to help us. But when we don't get the help, we should never blame the saints that it's their fault that they didn't listen to us. It was a situation that a family goes to celebrate, and they always did, to St. Nicholas for his day, and they went in the boat with a little baby. The mother had the baby in her arm, and while they were going across the river, all of a sudden she falls asleep, and the baby slips out of her hands and falls into the river and drowns. And it was a terrible, terrible tragedy. And the father was crying out with his heart, and in a sense of telling off St. Nicholas. How could he do that? Why didn't he protect the son? They were going to celebrate his day, and he was in such a distress, but he also believed and said, but you can still do everything. You'll be able to save the situation. And anyway, they got to the church, and no baby, and the next day they were home. And in the early morning, all of a sudden, there is a little baby crying up in the choir loft. And the church was locked, and when the priest came in, he gotten on the back of the keeper, and said, how is it possible? Why did you allow a woman to go up in the choir loft with a baby? This is not allowed over here to do. And he says, I don't know how they got there. I don't know. And because the church was locked. And they go upstairs and to the choir loft, and they see a little baby crying and all wet, all drenched wet, and he's crying and been laying right in the front of the icon of St. Nicholas. So obviously St. Nicholas had took him out from the river and resurrected him and put him right through, without having to open the key, put him right through in the choir loft. And after the matins, the metropolitan was there. He called up the people from the town and said, somebody come here and recognize your baby, and if it's your baby, take him away. And so the father first hears about it, that somebody left the baby in the choir loft. And he comes, and he's so shocked at seeing, he was so joyful, but he ran away, didn't take the baby, ran away quickly to his wife to console her. And she came, and of course recognized her own baby and picked her up. And these are the kind of things St. Nicholas did. Another situation was where St. Nicholas appeared to a person and said, why don't you order 3 icons, the icon of the Lord, icon of the Mother God with the Lord, and icon of St. Nicholas. And he went to an iconographer. They did that. They have, he had painted 3 icons the same size, bigger icons of the Lord, the Theotokos, and of Saint Nicholas. And when the Patriarch came, there was a sabor, and so the man decided he's going to feed the whole sabor, bring him to bless his house, and so on. So when the Patriarch comes with the sabor, he had prepared a great feast for them. And in the meantime, the Patriarch looks at the icon of the Lord, and it's beautifully made, and praises the man for having that, and for the Theotokos. When he looks at the icon of Saint Nicholas, he said, "Oh, it's not proper. Why you have such a same size of the icon of the Lord and of the Mother of God? You can't have that like that. Take it away." And made the man to take away the icon from the big hall where they had the celebration. And so he took it to another place and asked somebody to say prayers before the icon. But then they had a big feast kept going, and they ran out of wine, and the Patriarch wanted to have more wine, and he told the one that's making the celebration for him, "We want more wine to celebrate." And they said, "We have no more wine, and it's closed. We can't get any. We can't buy any place." But then he went over to the icon of Saint Nicholas, and he asked Saint Nicholas, "Would you help, please, the situation and get us more wine?" And he goes to the place where he keeps the wine, and he sees all the vessels are all full of wine. And he brings it out to the Patriarch, and he tastes the wine and says, "Boy, that's why did you keep the best wine at the end?" And of course it was a miracle, just like the Lord made the first miracle in Cana. And so, you should just read or listen to the lives of the saint and see all those things. But what I'm mainly trying to get to us is that we have to try to learn that humility. In the Traparin, when we sing for him, we're calling him that he was humility, filled with humility, which he was. And even though he had the strictness also at times, and he showed the zeal, and he fought for other people, and was able to put his neck out to save somebody else, and he was not afraid of anybody. Let's try to remember him more often. The church has made it so that every Thursday that we commemorate the apostles and Saint Nicholas, we have the only other one that's celebrated, is given a day out of the week, is Saint John the Baptist of the Lord. He celebrated on Tuesday. And the Saint Nicholas is celebrated on Thursday. And my beloved, we have to really truly learn to love the Lord, and to love His saints, and to be able to associate ourselves with them, to live with them, to think about them, to call them to our aid when we need when we're in trouble, and to thank them when we are not in trouble, and to thank them when we do get into trouble, and asking their help. But always believe that our God is God of love, and whatever He allows to befall us, He allows it only for our own good and for our growth. So let's never despair, but if we have a hard time, we know who to run to the Lord, and after the Lord, to the Mother of God, and of course to our guardian angel and the angels, and after that, let's run to Saint John the Baptist, and of course Saint Nicholas, and so on down the line, and we can have so many helpers. May Saint Nicholas keep on praying for us, that we will learn that main thing that the Lord is calling us to be able to learn to love Him with all our heart and soul and might, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. Amen.